Welcome to Build Your Village, a fireside chat centering African American mothers and families. We hope that this information is going to be a blessing to you and those around you. Take this information, use it to build community, use it to build and grow and help others. We thank you for being here. I'm Dr. Joanne Michelle Martin, pelvic floor physical therapist and birth doula. Enjoy. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fireside Chats. Today, I have with me the amazing Kay Matthews, who is the founder of the Shades of Blue project. Now, just a little bit about Kay, and I'm going to let her talk all about herself and the amazing work that they're doing. She's the founder of Shades of Blue, and they're on a mission to uplift all birthing individuals with the care, the respect, the dignity that they deserve, no matter their social status or birth outcome. And they focus on the experience, the birthing experience, and how we can bridge the gap by acknowledging that everyone's birth story matters. So I'm so excited for today's interview. You guys know me, Dr. Joanne Michelle Martin, pelvic floor physical therapist and doula. Kay, welcome. Welcome. I am excited to jump into this because today we are talking about Black maternal mental health, something that needs a lot of attention, something that we often, we're hearing more, but still not enough. So before we even dive into that, tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about Shades of Blue and how you guys are navigating this world of Black maternal mental health.
Well, first, I want to say thank you for having us, Dr. Martin. Kay Matthews, Executive Director and founder of the Shades of Blue Project. And like you said, our focus is around Black maternal mental health. Unfortunately, I feel like we're still in a pandemic epidemic when it comes to mental health. So many folks are introduced to their mental health in a couple of different ways, but on the maternal mental health aspect, it certainly goes untreated way too often. As someone who experienced maternal mental health after the loss of my daughter, delivered my daughter stillborn. And the main focus for everybody around me was the fact that I lost my daughter, not me as the person that was left and what that looked like and what that felt like. And postpartum depression was not a correlation when I had my daughter to infant loss. And so while most folks pushed me to the grief category, I was like, no, there's something wrong with me. This onset didn't happen one until I got pregnant and then got worse after. And so it just became my mission because one, I didn't want anybody to be wandering around aimlessly trying to figure things out for themselves, just simply because no one was having those conversations out loud. So the more I started to talk, the more then everybody had a story. And I was like, yeah, but I needed those stories like in the beginning stages. So I didn't think that I was just by myself. And so that's the journey of the Shades of Blue Project. It's from my own birthing experience. That's why I say we have to focus on birthing experiences, not so much as the outcome. Because when you focus on the outcome, you leave a whole group of folks out of that equation. And so our mental health, we always talk about how important it is, but we don't really tell or show folks, how do I actually focus on my mental health? Like, you're telling me I need self-care. But what exactly is that? Because it's certainly not running on the beach. And, it doesn't look picture perfect. Most times it looks ugly before it gets better. But we need to have those type of conversations out loud, so that one, people can identify something in your conversation will trigger them to be like, oh, that's me. Versus if you heard a conversation and you never identify with any of it, you think I'm fine. So if everything you hear around postpartum depression is a one subset way, like a standard checklist kind of way, you won't see yourself in that. It has to be something that triggers you to be like, oh, that's exactly how I felt. Okay, let me listen up. So that's our real true focus here. We are community-based, people-centered. Sometimes when we say community, we forget the community is people. And so we are community-based organization, but person-centered care. We can serve 10 folks, but we don't serve folks by numbers. We serve them by names. So if we serve 10 people, that means we serve Miss Linda, Miss Brenda, Miss Karen. We know names versus the numbers that are just attached to data, research. Those things are attached to real people. So that's our biggest focus. We're Houston based. This is where our maternal mental health resource center is, but we do this work national. So we serve 35 additional states outside of Houston, Texas, with social support services as well, coupled with the maternal mental health aspect.
Oh my God, that is beautiful. I have so many questions. I had prepared questions, and now I've got even more. I'm like, oh my God, where do we even start?
Right.
But when we think about maternal mental health, you made such a valid point. You said this did not start by the birth of my daughter. This started before. And I think that is something that we miss hugely in our society. We associate maternal mental health to the postpartum period alone.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't acknowledge that a lot of the mental health changes, concerns, or struggles can start as early in pregnancy.
Yes.
Right. And the default is, well, it's just par for the course. It's hormones. How do we start to get people to acknowledge that? Like, what have you guys been doing, and what has been working?
So for one, it's imperative that we catch our moms of birthing individuals while they are pregnant to educate them. I remember when I first started, folks would say, you're going to scare them. They're going to be scared. No, they're going to be educated. And that's two different things from being scared. Educated makes you stop and be like, oh, I remember I heard something about this. This is a red flag, right? I'm going to start to pay attention. So if this thing gets worse, I know that it's cause for concern and I can reach out and get help. So it's imperative to catch folks while they are pregnant. But in reality, that doesn't happen always. So you have to think about it as well. It has to be a real true mind focus on education. It is imperative also that it goes back to seeing yourself. Hearing something that is familiar to your experience makes you stop and think. But educate is the key. And educate in the mindset of knowing that everybody does not learn the same way. So you can't have a one-size-fits-all approach. That's also what's breaking us down. That's that checklist, going down and checking all the boxes and being like, we got it. No, because you got like 1,000 other people standing over there that wasn't a part of the checkbox. And so you're missing them. And that's just it. Looking at the approach to how we serve. And just imagining if there are 100 folks in front of you, you will not be able to successfully impact 100 folks if you're using the same method in the same way. You got to see 100 folks on an individual basis in order to do this. And because I do it all the time, I tend to say it's actually easy if you see people. Versus just seeing people. There's a difference. Like, I see you, but do I actually see you? Do you see me? Do you understand me? Do you hear me? All of those different things. So it really comes down to putting compassionate care back into this delivery service that we have out here. And a lot of that is lacking. That's the only way. It's through education in a way that the person standing in front of you will be able to receive it versus being like, yeah, I heard you. And then they walk away and it didn't have any impact and they didn't retain any of the information that you gave them. So not doing the one fits all approach. That's been the magic for us. It's just seeing the individual standing in front of us.
I like that. And when you think about the individual, one of the things I know, I was diagnosed with postpartum depression after my second, right? And I was in denial because I didn't even want to go to the doctor. I was having fights at home with hubby. It was stressful. I'm like, what is happening? I'm a professional. I shouldn't have this problem. And after talking with a lot of other professionals,
yes,
who had this problem, I asked a lot of them, well, did you get help? And they said no, because there's a certain level of embarrassment. Like, yep. I'm a physician, I'm a this, I'm a that, like, I'm an attorney, I'm, like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
But then also coupled with the stigma, because Black people don't go to therapy, right? Like, we've heard that from somewhere for so long. So what do we do as a society to combat? There's always going to be somebody, whether it's embarrassment or the shame or the stigmas. How do we how do we get to those individuals? I mean, we can't help those who don't know they need to be helped or those who don't want to be helped, but how can we start to let people know and be more aware?
So it starts by one, debunking a lot of those stigmas. And we're keeping the stigmas going by saying the same things over and over. So we have to take responsibility for continuing to put those things out into the universe. And so Black people do go to therapy. It's just that some of us know how to navigate a system that's not designed to care for us, and some of us don't. That's the bulk of where we are. And so it's not that we don't want to go to therapy, don't really know how to navigate what that looks like and what that feels like. And so that's really where it starts. A lot of what I hear in this space around maternal mental health is that women are suffering in silence. No, they're not. They're suffering out loud. We just don't know what we're looking for, or we're not paying attention. Or if we do see it, now we like, now what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to help that person. So I'm not saying that it's easier to not help, but it's the thing that folks typically do. But if we would start having more conversations out loud from behind our closed doors about our struggle, that's going to pull us in. That's going to debunk a lot of the stigmas that we are up against right now, because most professionals don't, like you said, don't they know all the things to do right until it's them.
Mm-hmm.
All my friends that get pregnant and they're in this profession, I'll be like, how you doing? You want me to get you one of them books that tell you, what to expect? And they like, you know what? Just because you ask, because they're not thinking, they're not thinking from this perspective that now you're in the motherhood shoes. And it's going to be different. Are you expected? We talk about mommy brain. You think you're exempt from that? You think, the struggle, right? Like we are people. And our positions and things like that don't make us exempt from experiences. And so that's what we have to do. We have to talk more out loud than behind our closed doors, and share those struggles and joys, because I feel like they go together. One of our hashtags here is "We Choose Joy," and we're choosing it. But how we choose it is we also have to see it, because some of us don't choose joy because we don't know what it looks like. And even if it's going to be joy, we may often reject it because we don't know what it looks like. So more exhibiting of what joy looks like and what it feels like, even if it's on the very minute level, is still there. Practicing that and getting more of that out there. We've gotten to a point where we continue to beat the issue versus uplifting the solutions, because there's a lot of person-centered solutions. But notice how I'm saying person-centered. I mean, you got to slow down, see the person in front of you. We live in such a fast-paced world where we're not typically able to, we don't lean into the slowing down, more so in the get it done. So when moms are in that postpartum period, or even while pregnant, it's like, girl, that thing's gonna pass. You're gonna be all right. And so in my mind, okay, you just gave me a time frame where I should be all right. But what if I'm not? And now I'm afraid to tell you that I'm not all right, because I have went over the expectancy that I should be okay, or that this thing is normal and I should be past it. And so that's why I say in reality, a lot of folks are suffering out loud. Folks tend to either ignore it, not know what to do with it, and then very few of us actually get help because there are resources out there.
I like that. How do we incorporate the partners now? Because that's huge, right? And
Yes.
I will say for, for a lot of people, they don't, sometimes the partners are living with them, partners, spouses, whomever, and they don't know, right? So what do we have them look for in terms of, we talk about red flags all the time, right? Sometimes people may deny things like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. But if you have a partner that's aware, like we might be able to kind of get ahead of some of these situations. But how do we get the partners involved?
Well, one, the value on the partner is important. Like, it's twofold. Like, everything is changing, and so you always hear that things change after you have a baby, and then that's the end. That's where the period stops. They don't tell you the whole, 2 pages after that as to why things change, because everything is new. That's something that we cannot deny. So everything is new for mom, for dad, the birthing individual, the new baby. Everything is new for everybody, and we're all working to navigate that. But there has to be a clear understanding that yeah, things are going to change, but I know you and you know me. And so even the little subtle changes, like, oh, I used to drink red soda. Now I'm drinking orange soda. Well, I've been watching you for 10 years drink red soda. Now all of a sudden, it's little simple things just like that. I had a client who came and she says, my husband sent me to you because he told me you used to journal. I don't see you journaling anymore. And she said, I don't have the energy to journal. And he's like, that's weird because I met you and you were writing and you always written. So things that you know that your partner always does, and then it just up and change, but it's having a negative effect. The mood changes are there. And we can't keep leaning on, oh, she just had a baby, or oh, it's because she's pregnant. Yeah, that's the factor. So that's the foundation, right? So then go a little deeper to see now what does this person need, because we're going to need something different prior to pregnancy versus the postpartum period. And that's it. It's those little subtle changes that the person and you automatically like, oh, that's a little different. Haven't seen them do that before. And like I said, there are resources out here. We don't live in those days where folks can just say, there's nobody out here doing the work or no one's helping. Yeah, that's an old excuse that is no longer valid. And so just being who I am, people watch this and will be like, hey, cuz shit, I'm just gonna say I call BS on that because that is no longer valid. People are out here doing this work and there is help. Something as simple as a support group or whatever it is needed. Folks are actually out here doing it. So yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. One of the things that the pandemic taught us was, getting into the virtual space. And we know that a lot of individuals, though, still live in areas because we have so many people in marginalized communities who might be like in rural areas, right? And don't have access. Maybe the infrastructure is not great. Maybe they don't have access to internet or things like that. When we have individuals in areas like this. You're in the South, I'm in the South. We know, when you go deep, deep, deep into the state,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's like a desert, like there's
Yes.
nothing going
Yes.
on. We don't have the professionals, we don't have the infrastructure for communication necessarily, or they may not have the means. How do we reach these individuals? Because we know they need help. So how do we get either to them or to the greater community around them so that they can then help them?
It's building out a network. It's very imperative that you have one if you're out here in the community. Now, there are some folks who really, really only focus on where they are. I mean, I'm in Texas, and we all know it. Texas is a big state, but we cover all of Texas because of our relationships and networking, whether you're in the valley, you're in the rural area, urban, all of those different things become factors, but it really typically comes down to your network and staying abreast as to what's out there. So are these national campaigns reaching? Because they're national for a reason, right? The gist of it is you're supposed to be able to reach the masses because it's national. But a national org still has to partner with community-based orgs because that's how you're going to get the word out. So it really comes down to your network, is how we do a lot of grassroots. I think we have to put a label on everything for you to know the level of in depth. It's really knowing people who are out here that are actually engaging with folks that could spread the word. Because the most organic way we have grown over the past 10 years is word of mouth. We'll put something out there about an event, but we never have a shortage of people to serve. And that simply comes from word of mouth and the connections and the community and the network that we have and continue to have state to state. Is like, who's doing the work? Tell us, share with us, because you just never know who has the capacity to do what, right? So if we don't have the capacity to do something, we don't want you to still be out here looking. Let us go into our network and see who does have the capacity. I think that piece is on us as community-based organization leaders to be up on who's out here doing the work, and typically the hidden gems who may not show up in your Google search. That's a reality, but they're still out here in the community doing the work, and they are very, very relevant to the folks that they serve. So if you really want to reach people, you got to be in connection with the people who are reaching those folks. So yeah.
Yeah. And what are you finding though in terms of we've had so much time of separation
Mm-hmm.
because of the pandemic. Um, and now, we've kind of come back out somewhat because we still get spurts here and there of COVID. It pops up. But
Mm-hmm.
what are you finding now, given all of that seclusion from
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago? How
Yeah.
has that impacted, and all that was going on in birth
Yeah.
too, with the
Yeah.
hospitals, people can have doulas, the
Mm-hmm.
birthing experiences, the
Yeah.
trauma that people
Yes.
experience. How are you finding that that has impacted people now and
Mm-hmm.
even birthing decisions moving forward?
Yes. So a lot of social anxiety across the board for those of us that are doing the work, and then those of us that are on the receiving end of those doing the work. So we have a big case of social anxiety. We just had our 2-day summit in July, and I just watched people become socialized again. It's like, hey, I've only ever seen you behind the screen. I've never met you in person. You know how different that is prior to 2020. We were not that big on Zoom calls the way we had to be during a pandemic. We didn't go 2 and 3 years without actually meeting somebody. And so that's new. It's remembering to get dressed. It's the simplest things. It's like, oh, my socks got to match, or my shoes got to match, or I got to put on a full, I can't wear shorts with my blazer. That's a real reality of it, reminding yourself that you got to be more presentable than just the top up. And so social anxiety is what we have been seeing. Now we are starting to also see a lot more folks who want to birth at home or at birthing centers versus larger entities, because birthing during the COVID era was way too lonely for a lot of folks because they had to do it by themselves. Not having a partner there, or a family member there, whoever it was, any type of support system there besides nurses and doctors that you didn't know. And it wasn't that they didn't care, but a pandemic happened. The whole world shut down, not just one section, the entire world shut down. And that is mentally debilitating in itself. And we are just now coming to the end of 2023. So we're like maybe really not even a full year, 2 years post COVID. And so again, folks are getting acclimated to what it means to go back out into society. Or those folks who were out there the entire time during COVID that didn't get a break, because some folks saw it as a break. And so that also is a part of the break that we are seeing now. People are tired.
Mm-hmm.
Healthcare professionals are tired. Let's just be honest about that as well. Community leaders are tired. And so as we continue to navigate this post-COVID era, we have to bring this thing full circle. It has to be about us as the caregivers, the ones who are in these health systems, especially the ones that are out here fighting against the machine, really trying to uproot this systematic racism that is embedded within our systems. Folks are tired. They may be showing up physically, but they are not showing up wholeheartedly. And we have to be able to recognize that amongst our peers as well, because that is going to impact how they serve. Although we say, no, I'll be fine. I'm dedicated to the work, but you also have to be dedicated to yourself. I tell folks all the time, I'm always going to start something out with encouraging the folks that decided to show up in the room, even those who are showing up on the other side of a screen, because I don't know what your need is. Although you presented today and you show up, there's still a hidden need there, right? So you got to be able to get what it is that you need for yourself. So focusing on mental health is something that I take like a day to day. It's something that it's who I am. And so understanding that in this post-COVID era is imperative, because I am seeing people very disconnected as they figure out a way to recharge. But there's no break in there, right? But we got to be intentional, because intentionality will bring what it is that we need for ourselves. And that's a fight. I will be completely honest with you. It's something that I had to learn for myself out here doing this work is that if I don't take care of myself, no one else, one, is expected to do so. But how is that going to show up in our service delivery? Are we going to become a part of the very system that we're out here fighting against? Because we need rest. Actually, the rest revolution has to be funded at this point, or we won't have a workforce. That's just the reality of this post-COVID era that we are in. So,
Yeah, self-preservation is definitely key. And I think it starts with us.
yes.
That as healthcare providers, as birth professionals, it starts with us. And when we talk about leading the charge, and I'm glad you said that, when we talk about leading the charge, it's not enough to just do the work, but we've got to walk the walk and talk the talk. Like, we've got to be able to show how, when we say we expect mothers to do XYZ, what does that look like, and how do we represent that? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's key and that's crucial. So thank you so much for saying that, because sometimes it's just the little things, right? Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
think we think about those enough, like you said, but it's the little things that make a meaningful impact, and they create that longevity that we're going to need, because there's still a lot of work to be done. And so
Right.
we've got to make sure that we've got the endurance
Yes.
to go the distance. So
Sustainability is
yeah.
key here, because gone to here today and gone tomorrow is really a thing. But that's because burnout is a thing that we continue to overlook.
Mhm.
And we're losing folks quickly, more and more so now,
Mhm.
because of our current climate. So
Yeah. What do you find, now you're in the Houston area, you're in Texas. Are you finding things that are happening in terms of, when individuals show up with mental health, postpartum, pregnancy, we're having concerns for mental health. Are you finding differences in your area relative to the state at large? Are you finding differences in your community relative to the other communities you serve? Are there any specific disparities that you can speak to?
the specific disparities is really still within our Black and Hispanic populations. They're struggling. They know something's wrong, but I mean, it's it's normal. It's been normalized. Like, this is how my mom did when she had kids, or my auntie acts like this, or my cousin. It's become the norm until we have those extended conversations where they know, like, this doesn't have to be the norm. Like, we have normalized it, but it doesn't have to be this way. And do you want to get help? That's the one thing that I don't think we give folks full bodily autonomy over this whole thing. So for us, it's about laying on the line our services that we offer. And yes, maternal mental health support and all of that, and free counseling sessions are there. But the reason why we do social services coupled with that is because moms and birthing individuals, they're worried about the rent, clothing, diapers, wipes, all that kind of stuff. I don't want to sit in your support group and I need diapers for my baby. Like, I don't want to hear that. But thanks. And then if that's the only way, then they out. But laying things on the line so they know that they have options. That's bodily autonomy. It's giving folks the options to, hey, this is what we offer, and this is what you're able to take advantage of it. We've seen more turnover in a good way to that. Like, oh, I came over here for diapers, but now I'm in the support group, or I'm doing a check-in. Now I'm volunteering, because to be honest with you, our goal is to have folks continuously walking through our doors, not the same people. That means that a temporary situation did not turn into a long-term situation just because you needed help right then and there, and you needed it, you got it, and you're better, and you've moved on. And so our goal is just, we love the folks that we know their name. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but we want to see a rotation of more and more people to come out, because what ends up happening for us is those folks that receive services for us, they always come back and volunteer.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, I don't need the diapers, or I'm good, but I want to help. Can I do something in the boutique? Can I do outreach event or something like that? And so that's that impact piece that is important, that could work. It's all of these things that really go hand in hand together that could certainly work. We just got to put in the work, and it's a lot of work. I don't want to be remiss. Folks always say, "Kay, y'all make it look too easy." Nah, it's
Mm-mm.
hard. Let me be 100% with you.
Mhm.
It's hard. It's not hard to be consistent, because it's what we do. So it automatically flows. But it's hard when folks have experience something somewhere else, and we're trying to get them to understand that, hey, sorry that happened over there. Doesn't happen over here. Let's see how we can navigate you into just a different outlook, full circle. So a lot of the times we are changing folks' minds in a lot of ways, but that's going to get them to where it is they want to be. So when you're experiencing mental health complications, you don't want to be there. You're trying to navigate it, but sometimes you lean into your own understanding and it's not taking you anywhere. And so that's our job. I learned a long time ago, 5% of what we do is resources. We provide you the resources, hand over fist, whatever we have access to, you have access to. The other 95% is up to you. That's your healing, because in reality, you are only telling us so much. You are the one who really know what you need. So take our 5% resources, implement that in so you can be whole, and whatever that looks like for you. There's no picture perfect out view or overline to feeling whole, right? We all want to feel whole in our own ways. But how you present that to folks will typically get them on board and on their road to that recovery. And recovery, most often, folks don't say it enough, is that that's a lifetime.
Lifetime.
It is a lifetime. It doesn't like, oh, I'm good. I did this thing for a year, so I'm good, because what will happen is something triggers you and it feels like that, you feel like you failed. Instead of, I was just having a bad day. Now I now know how to navigate that, and I don't stay stuck in that. And it doesn't, halt out my whole day. And maybe it does, but tomorrow I'm better. I can keep going forward. So yeah, all that.
You mentioned something that is so profound when you said most people are coming in, and sure, we have these groups, and sure, they're seeking mental health services, perinatal mental health services, but they got bills to pay.
Yep.
And the reality of the situation we're talking about, I had another interview, we talked about breastfeeding, right? For example, if somebody is not successful there, how does that impact them mentally? If the relationship at home is not where it needs to be, how does that impact them mentally? If they don't get a maternity leave and they have to go back to work, so we're working on mental health, but we're up against so many other things, because bills got to be paid, Pampers need to be bought, people are still, life is lifing, right?
Yes.
People are still going through so many different things. There's so many other external factors. How do and we it's almost like there's a leak and you're trying to plug all the holes. So how do we get to the point where we help to navigate that better? And and is it networking or joining force with other organizations to start doing that? How do you guys?
That's how we do it. It's our network. And so for instance, we don't cover rent or bill payments, but we have a great organization that's not even a mile away from ours. We call down there, we see how much money they have left in that account to be able. We don't want to send anybody down there so then they'll get rejected, right? No, we call, we make those conversations, we start those conversations for them to get them that kind of help. So it does come down to our network. We are crystal clear about the services that we offer too, which is not always, this is where disconnect comes in with community members, especially if I had to ride the bus to your location to get over there and you can't even help me. So we're crystal clear about what we offer and the connections that we have that we could help others with the things that we don't offer. So that's what it really honestly comes down to, is your network and your ability to connect folks to the services that we need. Because if I don't offer them, that doesn't stop you from needing them. But it may be stopping you from getting this other thing that we actually do offer. So let us connect you with a trusted community partner so we can get you that assistance. Because this is why we talk about bridging the gaps in maternal health and maternal mental health. Maternal mental health is such an and or part of a conversation when it needs to be and. It's maternal. You can't have maternal health without mental health. Because of things like you mentioned, breastfeeding. Sometimes there's a struggle there, sometimes there's not, great, but there is one there. And how do you navigate that for the person that is struggling? To me, I always feel like it's parenting with a mom who was successful at it. Like, help this mom that has been struggling with it, even getting some of the larger WIC programs involved, making sure they're giving these women the options and not just offering them the milk up front, giving them the breast pumps and things like that, get bodily autonomy. If this is what the decision that they have made, that starts at the hospital as well. If this mom has made this decision to breastfeed and things like that, it is going to be mentally debilitating for her. Maybe it's going to be short term, maybe long term, but we got to fill in the gaps, right? Those are things that we have to be watching for. Is she struggling? Sometimes we feel like a struggle means stop.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's like, is there another way to navigate this thing before we just pump the brakes and say, nah, it's not working? And it gets like that. You have some women who's like, I tried it for a couple of weeks, it wasn't for me, but you have women who breastfeed their babies up to that 5, right? So there's this big gap in which we could be connecting folks to on a level in which they need that support. So the support comes from our network, but it also comes from our network. So our moms are very supportive and they build within the community that we've created for them, because that's what support looks like. We set the foundation with our support groups, but then they come into support groups and build their own support group within it, right? So they know that we're the foundation. They can come back, they can engage in this level. But what if there's a need for childcare and you built this little community within it, right? And so y'all can navigate what that look like. Again, I'm struggling with breastfeeding. What does that look like? Can you help me? Are there some tips? Things like that. The network piece is extremely important in doing this work.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. From your experience with birth loss, and thank you
Mhm.
for sharing that. And I know that that was a big catalyst in the work that you do. How often are you finding that we are really talking about it? It is sad, it is something that is tragic, but I feel like oftentimes individuals that suffer a loss are not equipped,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
like you said, people move on, life as usual. Oh, you lost your baby, but we fail to recognize that person is postpartum.
Mhm.
They may not have a living infant, but their body's still gone through all of this.
Right.
The body's still dealing with the hormones. They're
Mhm.
still going through all of this. So where can we begin to start helping our moms, our families, our birthing persons who have dealt with perinatal loss?
First of all, it comes down to acknowledging that this person is still here. All of the conversations, honestly, just cannot be about the loss of the child. There's going to be so much loss that happens after the loss of that child. I can pretty much bank on it. Not just from my own experience, but from working with others. There's going to be a ton of loss after that until you navigate back into this new path. Because again, like I said, when moms and birthing individuals have baby, everything is new. When you lose a child, everything is new too. Because if you have a partner, you have a relationship, there's going to have to be some rebuilding there, rebuilding with family who maybe just can't even deal with it, can't even fathom the thought. It's not for them to understand, it's for them to actually give you the support to navigate now what life looks like. Can't just like skip over that, oh, you'll have another baby. 10 years later, I haven't, right? And so if I had leaned into that back then, because I was just like, yeah, but it's me. Like, I'm still here. Like, this person that I'm left with is going crazy. And I was different. And so it just simply comes down to understanding that things are going to be different. Everything cannot be about the baby. And the biggest part of that is every woman who gives birth is susceptible to maternal mental health complications because they gave birth. It's not about the outcome. It's about the experience. And then that experience of the pregnancy ended in death is a completely different experience from one that results in a live birth, right? It doesn't take away from that because we all know there's birth trauma. The doctor could have done this and all these different things could have happened, right? So it's not to negate one experience over the other. Just focus on the experience of the person that's in front of you. That's what you need to do. And it's not a one size fits all approach because what we do in the postpartum period will look different from every individual. That's just it. And so understanding that one, have a conversation and ask those questions that you feel like that are hard. I remember being asked like, what do I need? And I was just like, I don't know. And then people were just tired of like me saying, I don't know. what exactly was I supposed to know when this thing was new to me? I was just like, the reaction was just like, I had lost 10 babies and I should know by now what to do. And I was just like, I don't know. How can you help me? I don't know. But if we could, no one ever like wanted to partner on what that looked like. Like, I don't know, but like, let's figure it out together. My husband did. He's my husband now. But I rejected it. I was like, what do you know? But later on, though, he had some very valid points that would come up over time. That again, this thing was new. He so for him, he had experienced infant loss with a previous partner. So he's trying to tell me his experience, but it was new to me, so I rejected it. I was just like, I don't want to hear that. Like, that's not no. But also, there was no conversation around mental health and what he was. It was more so on what to do around the grief. But my struggle wasn't grief. The struggle with postpartum depression that I was experiencing actually delayed my grief almost 2 years. It was just some random day, and I was just like was back in the hospital in that moment, and I just could uncontrollably, I couldn't stop crying. And that was the grief that everybody was pushing me towards. But again, I was navigating like, who is this Kay that's left? What am I supposed to do with this person? How now is my life impacted? And it was impacted in a major way. And so understanding that it all changes after childbirth. It just does, whether with a living or non-living outcome. It all changes, and you're gonna have to navigate what that looks like for you and your support system. So,
If you could wave a magic wand
mhm,
and have any outcome
mhm.
as it relates to maternal mental health, what would that be most for you?
My magic wand would be for us to have conversations, and that me talking about my mental health doesn't scare you. It doesn't make you feel threatened. It doesn't prompt you to go into some type of combat mode to get, a bunch of people involved. Maybe it's just a conversation of something that I need to get out. And so that's my magic one, is for us to be a lot more conversational, because sometimes that's really what it lends to being, is I'm struggling internally, and externally I don't know how to get it out. But that's typically leads to the environment and maybe the people that we are surrounded by, so we don't feel judged and all of that. So my magic one would be for us to be able to be conversational. That would lead to whatever, that would yield to whatever that conversation needed to be. So yeah, more conversations. I think the more we talk, the more reality starts to reveal itself. And it's like, okay, I'm not crazy. My God, I was sitting in a lot of things. And now, okay, I'm not by myself, because typically at some point in time, we all feel like this thing is only happening to us. And for me, I was the complete opposite. I was like, I'm extraordinary, but I'm not that extraordinary. Like, this has to be going on out here. We're just not talking about it enough. So yeah, that's what my magic wand would be. Conversations.
I would add to that, not only the conversations, but for people to give them the grace, enough grace to listen and let them get it out.
Yep. The conversations that lead to better outcomes, that's exactly where it starts, is the ability to, if we say it, open up our mouths and we say it, that it is received. And then there's some cause of action that follows up to it. But we got to even get to that point where we can have it come out and then not even scare us. Because sometimes you can say things and be like, I can't believe I just said that. That's what we need more of, is not holding the things in, or also expecting folks to see your pain when it is visible, right? But we don't all see it. I always say, I hope that the people who are struggling out loud encounter someone who can see it and can truly ask them, are you okay? And do you need help?
Yeah. I like that. Where can people find you? Where can people find out more about Shades of Blue, what you guys are doing, projects that you have going on, and also within other communities? You said you worked in other states, so even within their state.
Yes, so we are national in the way and by way of our social support services. So if you're someone that is watching that and you need help, or you're a licensed clinical social worker, hospital, whoever you are and you're offering social support services, all your clients have to do is fill out our application. Our case managers reach out to them and we mail out. So that's how we were able to serve 35 additional states. We have a whole mail out program. So we mail out diapers, wipes, clothing, anything that fits in our 14 by 14 box can be mailed out. If you're local to Houston, you can come into the center and get big items like strollers, car seats, beds, clothing, things like that. We're also able to ship clothing as well. As far as where to find us across social media, we're Shades of Blue Project. We're there everywhere. Anywhere you can think of, even on TikTok. We're everywhere on social media. And then our website is shadesofblueproject.org.
I look forward to it. I'm excited. I'm about to go shout to the rooftops and let everybody in Georgia know that
Yes.
you exist, so that we could be like, listen, listen, I know somebody, like
Yes.
I got a person.
Yes.
But
That's how it gets done.
that's how it gets done, right? I'm so thrilled. I'm so excited. Just, every time I do one of these interviews, I feel like I'm blessed. I feel like I'm not only meeting these amazing individuals doing such impactful work, but I get chills, because it's like, yes, work is being
Yes.
done. Yay. What else can we do? And I'm
Right.
so thrilled and I'm so excited and I'm so energized by it. So I greatly appreciate you and all that you were doing,
Thank you.
and the way that you're serving families, not just moms, but families, and contributing to, we always talk about things like generational wealth and this, but this is where it starts. Like, if we
Yes.
can't pour into a family, we can't get all those, long-term outcomes. This is where it starts. And so I just thank you for that, and all that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We still here. I always say we still here. We're not going anywhere. We're 100% committed to better outcomes for our communities at large. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, awesome. Well, I hope all of you that are listening have enjoyed this. Definitely look out for all the work that Shades of Blue is doing, Shades of Blue Project. You can find them on social media at Shades of Blue Project. You can find them online, check them out, see what they're doing. If you are a birth worker, if you are some sort of perinatal professional, please reach out to them, y'all.
Yeah.
We can get so far by collaborating. So reach out to them, see how you can connect, whether you're in Texas, whether you're in another state, but see how we can get to do this work together and start impacting more lives. So I thank
Yes.
all you guys for watching. Dr. Joanne Michelle Martin here. Until next time. Bye, y'all.